And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we're talking about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt showing real potential at the OTAs. And next we're going to be talking about how important the running back position is going to be for the Washington Commanders this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jayden Daniels is going to be hitting, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt impressed at the OTAs. And so if you want to go look at this article, this is on Riggo's Rag. And within this article, it is talking about something that is mentioned by John Keim of ESPN. And he highlighted that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's speed and explosiveness is something that has stood out from the rest right now. And so, look, this is huge when you're talking about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, because we've been talking about how this team was really, mocked to take a running back in the NFL draft. They essentially did not take a running back until round 7. And I think one could look at Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and say that this is a very big steal for the Washington Commanders, because like I said, had he been able to play last year and not have to deal with the situation that he dealt with in college and having to sit out due to the eligibility stuff, I think that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt certainly would have been a much higher selection than round 7. When you look at what Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt just has shown in his time in college football, I mean, this is a guy that had some terrific speed. He's shown that he can be elusive. He moves well. I think once he gets into the hole, I said that before, I think that he makes just great decisions there. And then I just love his balance. Like once he gets hit and things like that, he's able to stay on balance. And I think that one of the real big potentials for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is him really flashing as a wide receiver. I thought that the limited stuff that I saw with him, it shows that he has some really good hands. And I think that is something that could really be something that's potentially unlocked here at the next level. And so we'll see what happens. But this is huge. The fact that he is already coming in and he's impressing like that. And so, again, this is OTAs. They have not put on the pads and gone against the live defense and things like that. But the fact that he's moving well is a great sign here. And it's just a matter of, does he pick up the offense quickly? And then is he going to be able to seize the opportunity if it becomes available? So Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is one of the players that I feel like is a hidden gem for this team. And this is somebody that we're going to constantly talk about. And so next, I wanted to jump into the next part here and just talking about this running back competition and how this could really shape the Commanders' offense. I think that this is something that really hasn't been talked about enough. And I think that this is really a highly competitive group on this team. And I think that there's so many different circumstances tied to this. And let's start with just, from an individual standpoint, when you look at the top of the depth chart at the running back position, like there's a lot on the line with these guys. And I think that, just not for them, but I think for the entire group, I mean, they're just hungry out there. And let's start with Brian Robinson Jr., because with Brian Robinson Jr., he's definitely coming into this thing hungry. And so we've talked about this before with Cliff Kingsbury saying about how focused he is, what this year is going to mean for him and what it means for the team. And with Brian Robinson Jr., with this being a contract year for him, I mean, he's got to go out there and play exceptionally well, regardless of what happens here with the Washington Commanders, because you're talking about getting another contract in the National Football League. And so I know, he's definitely hungry and motivated to go out there and show that he can be an RB1 here for the Washington Commanders. But more importantly, he's looking to get paid here. And so I think that he's definitely coming into this situation hungry because of that. And obviously, I think last season with the way things finished, he wanted to finish it a lot better than what he did there. So I think that, B-Rob was definitely banged up down the stretch. But for the most part, look, this was the best year that he's had with the Commanders as far as the yards were concerned. At the 799 is the most touchdowns that he had. And then also, too, this was his best year as far as averages. And so I think that he's wanting to come into this thing fully be healthy for the year and just go ahead and ball out here. And this is going to be a great situation because there's more weapons that have been added on the offensive end. You have Jayden Daniels, who I clearly expect to take the next step. The offensive line has been revamped, so to speak. And so it's primed and ready for the running game. And next, when you're talking about hungry, you have to look at Austin Ekeler because he's hungry for another reason, because Austin Ekeler is in a contract year as well. And with Austin Ekeler, when you look at it traditionally with him in his career with the what was the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, in his career, he never got a chance to get as far as he did, like he did with the Washington Commanders last season. And so I think for him, he's definitely hungry. As many years that he's played in the National Football League, this being a contract season, unsure of what's going to happen after this season, you have to know that Austin Ekeler, being that close last season, he is going to come into this thing and absolutely want to ball out. So I think he's hungry for that. And if he's looking for the next contract, he's definitely going to be hungry for that one. And then next, when you look at the rest of the roster, whether it's Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez Jr., or JaCorey Crosskey-Merritt, these guys are hungry for the opportunity. I think that for them, they're looking to show that they can be really a huge impact for this team. And, they're hungry to get out on the field and take advantage of the opportunities because they know how dynamic this offense is. And really, with the pieces around them, it's going to set the running game up for something special this year. And that leads me to my next point with the running game. I think that the Commanders' ground game is really the X factor this year, because one of the things that we continue to talk about is just Jayden Daniels taking this step and how Adam Peters has gone out and he's gotten this offensive line to protect him and everything else. One of the ways that you protect your franchise quarterback is you go out and you run the football well. And so that means that, all these guys are going to be super important to the Washington Commanders staying on balance. I think that when you looked at this team last season, whenever they were able to dominate in the trenches, they could be balanced on the ground. And then also too, with the things that Jayden Daniels was able to do via the air here, this is a very tough football team to stop. And we know coming into this year, everybody has saw what the Washington Commanders have done. We've talked about this with primetime games. We've talked about this with the emphasis that the National Football League has put on the Washington Commanders. All eyes are going to be on them. They're going to be on Hard Knocks and all this other stuff. One of the ways that you can protect your franchise quarterback and ensure that you're going to be in winning situations is you've got to run the football well. And so these guys are going to be super important to the Washington Commanders going farther than they've ever gone in a while, and that's winning the Super Bowl. So you've got to be able to run the football, especially when it comes down to playoff time and the weather gets bad and things like that. I know that the rules have changed and it's been out there now to where teams can kind of open it up and everything else, but you still have to be able to run the football, especially in the cold weather and stuff like that. And so that's where these guys are going to be super important. And I just love the fact that we have so many backs that are just this hungry this year. And so this is the X factor, I think, for this team. You guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you feel like that, yes, it is going to be a real running back battle this season? Because like I said, nothing is really guaranteed at the top of the depth chart here. And I think that this is something that, Dan Quinn has said. This is something that, the coaches have said, that, look, everything is out for competition. And so that means that, look, if JaCorey Crosskey-Merritt comes out, he's doing well at the OTAs, he's also playing well enough in the preseason, I think that they are certainly going to look to give him an opportunity. And I feel like this is the type of player coming in out of the 7th round, missed a year of college football and practice, and he's super hungry to get out onto the field. And so I think there's the potential he may not look back. You look at a guy like Chris Rodriguez Jr., he's shown some flashes, just really hadn't had the opportunity to put it all together. Jeremy McNichols showed us some things last season. Brian Robinson Jr. has shown us at times he can definitely be a RB1. Can he establish that he is that guy? And with Austin Ekeler, this is a guy that, look, we don't know how much longer he has left. And so for him to be in the position that he was in last season with this team, he is hungry to get a Super Bowl ring before it all ends for him. And so you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Commanders. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right. Peace.